Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by SoPro in partnership with B2B Better. Thrilled to have such a large turnout today. Great to see a few returning faces and a few new ones as well. That's great. We're going to try and keep today's session quite pacey. We're going to hopefully get it all wrapped up inside 45 minutes. So, yeah, it's very warm welcome to everybody who's joined us today. The webinar is entitled Why Your Cold Emails Won't Land in 2024 and How Multi-Channel Prospecting is Your Salvation. As you could probably guess from that title, we're going to be talking about the latest trends in B2B outreach unearthed during our recent State of Prospecting report. In addition, we're going to be getting topical and talking about why your emails won't physically land if you're not adhering to the new email sender rules. Now, I mentioned our report. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you do. It's the most comprehensive report into B2B prospecting ever. It analyzes billions of data points from almost 90 million outreach events. That's across email, LinkedIn, phone calls, social ads, gifting, and much more. Just a reminder for everybody that we are recording this session. You should have had a little pop-up when you joined. We'll be emailing a copy to everybody who registered, along with the State of Prospecting report and a few bonus resources we're going to be covering in today's session. Of course, if you can't wait that long, head over to sopro.io and you'll find our resource hub. You've got a whole back catalogue of webinars in there, as well as some prospecting treats. So do have a little look at that if you have an opportunity to. So it's fair to say 2023 was a big year for B2B outreach and an increasingly competitive market. We're here to share our insights to help you sell more with some practical tips on how to put our findings into practice. And we've got a couple of brilliant speakers to walk you through that process. First up, we've got Shane Gravitt, our head of sales. Shane is a renowned expert in sales and business development who boasts over a decade of experience in helping companies reach their growth goals. Joining Shane is our very own Hannah Dobson, our customer success extraordinaire, based in our Brighton office. With her unwavering dedication and proactive approach, Hannah ensures that every customer interaction is exceptional, making her an indispensable member of our team. And she didn't write that herself. There is an awful lot of information crammed into the next 45 minutes or so, and I'm absolutely certain you're going to have some questions. If we have time, we're going to be hosting a quick Q&A at the end. So if a question does pop into your head, please just drop it into the chat. Feel free to message me directly and we'll put them to Shane and Hannah at the end. Experience tells me that we don't always have time to answer everybody's question. So if that is the case, maybe pop your email address into the chat as well. And if we can't answer it today, we will get back to you directly. Now, just before I hand over to Shane and Hannah, I just want to throw a quick question out to the crowd. Have you noticed more cold emails in your inbox? And perhaps more crucially, what makes you respond? Talking personally, I've had a couple of days of leave last week, and I came back to an absolute mountain of automated outreach. I don't think I responded to any. There may have been a couple that I opened and took a look at, but I'm quite tuned in now, and I think I can spot an automated email from the little preview. And yeah, if I'm not particularly familiar with who's sending it, I'm ultra cautious. So yeah, I just wondered if anyone else has experienced that. Let's have a quick look. Jesse says yes on a daily basis. Definitely notice more cold emails, says Carmen, and definitely not responded though, says Sean. Yeah, I think that's quite a familiar theme. I think the subject line is everything. I'm not easily duped, and I don't mind if people have put the effort in. If there's a bit of curiosity, then I am quite likely to open the email at least. But yeah, definitely an increase in the number of emails hitting inboxes. Right, that's probably enough from me. I've been wittering on for far too long. It's time to sit back, relax, and get ready to be impressed, improved, and maybe even a little bit empowered. Let's get started. I'm going to hand you over to Shane and Hannah.
Thank you, Rich, for that introduction. So I wanted to start by touching on 2023. There's no doubt it was a tough year. Inflation, supply chain issues, new ways of working, and of course, massive tech advancements, with AI being by far the biggest, and all set to continue this year. But despite that, what senior decision makers have confirmed and that's across multiple industries, is there is a lot of confidence in 2024, with over 60% saying they were confident of meeting or even exceeding targets. However, what you can see from the data on the screen, and remains the same for sales and marketing, is their digital challenges, with lead volume and lead quality a constant yearly concern. So the question is, how do you meet those sales and marketing challenges? Well, it all starts with email. 88% of decision makers said they wanted to hear from suppliers when researching and evaluating. And 67% of buyers said email was their preferred choice of outreach. That's by far more than any other channel. So it's no wonder email was again rated the most reliable channel for leads, with 86% saying email prospecting drives good to excellent return on investment, and only 3% that it delivers negative results. So it's clear, email still delivers. But as the title of our webinar today suggests, your cold emails won't land in 2024 on their own. First, there's the increased competition in the inbox that Rich touched on at the very start of the webinar. We've all seen it and felt it for ourselves. A staggering 1.5 billion marketing emails were opened every month last year. That's a 48.5% increase year on year in the number of emails. And in turn, it showed that email-only campaign results were down 22.2% from the year before. So the busy inbox is clearly having a big impact on results. A simple email message, whilst it's the buyer's choice of outreach, standalone just doesn't cut it anymore. Multi-channel outreach is key. By layering in other channels with email as your lead outreach, your outreach campaigns will see great success. Now turning a stranger into a customer is about 4 key things. Great targeting, so that's the right person. Great content, that's the right message. Meeting them where they are, so that's the right place. And doing all of that just when they're ready to buy, the right time. So let's start with the right person, and over to my co-host, Anna.
Thank you, Shane. So how do you get all 4 of these vital elements right? Bad emails have poor segmentation and targeting and have poor personalization and copy. Mass send emails are bad on every front. Good emails with good targeting, segmentation, personalization, and copy mean you can reach the right person with the right message, but you don't know if the place and time are right for them. Multi-channel outreach can nail all 4, the right person, place, time, and message, as we'll see. So how can you level up your email outreach? Well, our latest white paper examines the world of B2B prospecting. It reveals the problems that have developed with email and outlines their solutions. Our data and survey insights, campaign results, and outreach experts all point towards multi-channel prospecting as the answer to getting all 4 firing: person, message, time, and place. So finding the right person starts with knowing exactly who you're targeting. So before starting any outreach, identify the right businesses that you can problem solve for with ideal customer profiles. And then build a picture of the right people in those businesses with buyer personas. By segmenting that audience, you can connect with each individual and their specific pain points. To reach that ideal customer, you really need great data. So bought lists come with a whole host of issues, including data decay and potential compliance breaches. Building your own list is possible at a smaller scale, but still time-consuming and requires constant updating. Sopro builds a fresh list for each new campaign from a range of sources that we know are accurate and compliant. Consider the information you need on each prospect to help you segment your list and contact them on the right channels. And don't underestimate the importance of the compliance piece here. It's crucial to keep up to date with all the relevant laws for the locations you're prospecting to.
It's also important to factor in the rise of the decision maker when targeting the right person. There are more stakeholders than ever involved in the decision-making process. You now have an average of 4 eggs to crack. So long gone are the days that there's just 1 or 2 decision makers. With 11% of companies quoting 6 to 9 decision makers as part of that decision-making process. So by including them in your initial outreach campaigns and widening the net, it will increase your opportunity to engage and start those meaningful conversations. But equally as important, and in my opinion, not to be underestimated, it's known to increase what we call their mental availability of your brand. Now, they may not be the person that responds to your outreach initially, but the brand recognition early on in your messaging subliminally builds trust. And it definitely plays a part, a very big part, in the decision-making process later down the line. Multi-channel can also help with finding the right person. Buyer intent can give you really useful insights to which prospect within each company is showing interest. It tracks the digital footprint prospects leave as they navigate online. Key is plugging your outreach into your website. This will provide you with insights into their activities, which can help you send a message at the right time and at the right place. It's instrumental in identifying when a buyer is actively engaged. We will explore more on this later in the webinar.
So moving on to the messaging itself, don't abandon email, elevate it instead. Our analysis of over 75 million outbound emails found the secrets to great subject lines, word count, and content. Using personalized subject lines has the most positive effect on open rates, whereas using anything shocking or alarmist was much less successful. Test and optimize everything that can impact open rates, click-through rates, replies, and positive responses. In our analysis of 75 million outreach messages, we uncovered the themes and tones that increased lead rates. This slide is just a brief look at some of the tips in the report, but basically content that reassures and demonstrates social proof is great, and words that show empathy and promise collaboration also perform really well. On the other hand, certain approaches seem to turn prospects off. Content that creates false urgency or promises to fix their problems before knowing specific issues has a negative impact on lead rates. There's also a long list of jargon and buzzwords to avoid. We can see in the chart here things like supercharge and synergy, but the full analysis is outlined in the State of Prospecting report. So how does multi-channel help with the right message? It's not just about curating the perfect content. Your message needs to be seen multiple times to be remembered when it comes to the decision-making process. So the rule of 7 states that people need to come into contact with your brand several times before they'll make a purchase. Excuse me. And the encoding variability hypothesis explains that when people see your message in different formats across different channels, they remember it more. And all of the email best practice that we've been preaching for the last 8 years really still applies. So you still want great content that is human sounding, and we've had a bit of insight into this already. One-to-one personalization, from data variables to segmented messaging for each persona. You need a great sequence of follow-ups sent at the perfect time and not giving up too early. You should also have a process in place for out-of-office replies so you can follow up with anyone when they return. And respond to all your replies. So when someone says no or not now, it's the start of a conversation and gives you a chance to research and personalize further. Try out some different messaging on each chaser. So maybe ask for a referral or test different ways to demonstrate value within that chain. Always test and learn. So make sure you're tracking the effectiveness of every change you make so you can optimize the perfect email sequence. And finally, don't forget about the new sender rules that went live earlier this month.
Thanks, Hannah. Now onto the right place and the channels to use as part of multi-channel outreach. And it starts with email, and a great technical setup is more important than ever. So you've crafted the perfect message, helping you stand out from the competition. Now you need to ensure that your email is hitting your prospect's inbox. So it's important to implement best practices. And in our experience, ticking off everything you see on this deliverability checklist. Teeth back in, sorry. To highlight a few examples, there's one-click unsubscribe. It's a quick and easy way for recipients to opt out of your emails. So always include an unsubscribe link. Spam rate threshold. This is the number of your emails that get marked as spam by recipients. Keeping this rate low is crucial for maintaining good email deliverability and sender reputation. Even more important in the light of the new rules. Sender reputation. This measures the trustworthiness of your sending domain and IP address. Building and maintaining a positive sender reputation through best practice is essential. Email content. We've looked at the content that drives great results, but content also comes into play with deliverability. Avoid spammy words. You can easily find a list online of the types of words that are classed as spam, or use our own email awesomeness tool on our website. List quality. Outdated or irrelevant contacts can lead to higher bounce rates and a negative impact on your sender reputation. It also makes your content less relevant to recipients, meaning engagement rates will suffer too. And one more, frequency and volume. That's how often you send emails and the quantity of emails sent in a given period. Sending too many emails in a short time or having erratic sending patterns can be flagged as spammy behavior. Now, that's just a few off of this email deliverability checklist that you can see on the screen now. As part of our webinar, we'll be sharing lots of resources with you, and we have a really useful blog that covers this topic in much more detail. I highly recommend you give it a read. Then it's about boosting your campaigns by adding your outreach with a redeemable gift. When it comes to brand recognition and building and relationship building, 4 in every 5 businesses say gifting offers a substantial return on investment. And it's a great way also to target high value accounts. We've seen our own lead rate quality improve by 36% when a gift was offered. But it works even when the recipients don't take the gift. Clearly, it's the perceived value that we found has the biggest impact on results. Plus, we've already talked a little bit about intent already today. Gifting is fully trackable. After email, our survey confirmed that LinkedIn was the second most preferred form of communication for buyers. But it isn't always the most effective way of driving leads and therefore return on investment. Some of that could be down to the absence of a prior relationship. So any outreach can feel spammy to the prospect. Plus, there is a high volume of outreach on the platform, something I can vouch for personally myself. I get a lot of email messages. However, using LinkedIn layered in with email as part of your multi-channel outreach and based on buyer intent, so you know they've been researching you, been on your website, can elevate that initial message and drive great results. This research that you can see on the left-hand side of the slide from the B2B Institute shows that when people have seen your brand before, they are more open to sales outreach. They show there is a 36% increase in accepted emails and a 24% increase in accepted connection requests. And we've seen this for ourselves in action in our own campaigns, where 4.8% of intent-based emails resulted in a book sales call. As an example, now they probably don't know I'm going to be saying this, and they might be on the webinar today. Daniela and Craig from my team are probably the most effective, definitely the most effective at this in my team, both seeing an extra 4 to 5 meetings booked per month through LinkedIn messaging. As part of our own intent tracking, they will receive a message in real time, knowing when and where their prospect has visited on our website. And in response, they reach out on LinkedIn to start a conversation. Probably something along the lines of, I've seen you've been on our pricing page. Can I help? Now, I'm sure after this webinar today, they'll probably tell me they're a lot better and a lot more succinct than that. But it's all about perfectly timed outreach. I've been in sales long enough to know that cold calling can be tough at the best of times, especially with such a low success rate of around 2%. And there's not many salespeople that would say that they like cold calling. But what about warm calling? It's all about well-timed intent. Like with the previous example of LinkedIn, by plugging your outreach into your website, you can get notified when prospects are on your website. And then you can call them. Why? Because you know they're researching you. 8% of our own intent-based warm calls resulted in booked meetings. Another example of the right time and the right place. So let's talk paid social advertising as a channel as part of that multi-channel prospecting. B2B targeting is limited on Facebook and Instagram. And as a result, ads are served to a much wider audience than required, which is inefficient and leads to a high amount of wastage in our experience. However, here at SoPro, we've been in partnership with a company that directly matches your prospecting audience on these social platforms. And as a result, our now highly targeted paid social ads saw a 211% increase in direct leads. And even more powerful, a 53% rise in deals signed. Because we know they've already been exposed to our brand through other channels of outreach. Think of the rule of 7 and mental availability we mentioned earlier. Recall is significantly increased when priming the prospect for outreach on other channels. We're now testing this service with a handful of our clients with the aim of then rolling this out to all of our customers, hopefully very soon. And finally, you've heard the news here. Direct mail is making a comeback. A tangible human touch in what is a digital online world. We found letters needed to be fully personalized and then followed by an email as part of other multi-channels. So not a standalone mass email send or mail out send, sorry, with no follow-up. But the results were great. 18% of companies said they were happy to be contacted by post, more than double in 2023. Now, we've been testing this on our own multi-channel campaigns, and buyers that received a letter were 23% more likely to open a subsequent email. And even better, prospects are even coming back to us commenting on the outreach, saying that they really like the letter and email combo, which shows to us it's really working and resonating.
So if we move on to the right time, here's what great timing always used to look like with emails. But picking one time slot and sending all your emails could spell disaster if you're sending to a higher volume. You could be flagged as spam and damage your domain reputation. So don't send all your emails out on X day or Y hour just because graphs like this one say that they'll do well. Treat them as interesting stats that can help you with certain accounts. Instead, you can elevate your timing more intelligently by using buyer intent data. So buyer intent should form an integral part of your multi-channel prospecting, even though it isn't itself a platform. As you've already seen, it can be utilized across many channels, including LinkedIn and warm calling. And it helps you to understand if your prospect is ready to buy, and you can then tailor your strategy based on real-time insights. Multi-channel is all about weaving a more intricate web of communications, and buyer intent ensures your message reaches buyers precisely when they're actively seeking solutions and open to talking. Crucially, it keeps your brand top of mind during their decision-making process. With the right tech, detailed tracking of buyer intent can be added to your campaigns, including their name, social profiles and contact details, the pages they visit on your site, when they visited for and for how long, whether or not they returned multiple times. And real-time notifications of high intent events can be really valuable so you can contact that person in the moment. IP Match turns anonymous website traffic into named businesses. So if a business visiting your site matches your ICP, you should add relevant prospects from that company to your campaign. This captures new and unknown, but relevant interest and increases the number of quality prospects in your campaigns. It also gives insight on who's finding your content on your website, which is really great feedback for marketing teams. Our clients used IP Match and Engage to increase lead volumes by almost 15%, turning inbound traffic into outbound leads.
Our survey of B2B leaders showed multiple outbound channels complement each other, and they complement inbound channels too. This means that your sales and marketing teams are working in alignment. Inbound increases brand awareness and drives leads from people who know about you. It's centered around the attract and engage and delight model. Outbound puts you in direct contact with the business who you know are the right fit for your business and includes people who don't know about you. Combining outbound and inbound allows you to make the most of a range of channels and strategies. Brand building and direct outreach can work in harmony to drive great results. So, what does this all look like in practice, what we've been talking about today? So I picked out a couple of real-world examples from our own clients to illustrate how this works. So on the screen on the right-hand side, first of all, you can see our client. The industry they're in, business consulting and services. Location, Portugal. Company size, 50 to 100 headcount. Their current lead rate is just over 5%, and they've been a client of ours since September 2023. On the left-hand side, you can see the job title of this prospect as part of this case study. They're a marketing manager. The industry that they're in is investment banking. The location of the company is worldwide, and the company size is 200 to 500 employees. Starting with email, the client sends their first message, as you can see with the timestamp, around midday. And you can see the prospect doesn't open it until the very end of that working day. With the email opened, the client then sends a LinkedIn connection request as a message. The following morning, that LinkedIn outreach leads to the prospect to go back to the original email, and they click on the link and the URL in the email, taking them to our client's website. The client then gets notified of a visit to their website. So intent tracking at its best, and that the prospect is checking out the homepage and their blogs. Later that evening, after work hours, the business is clearly still on the prospect's mind because they return to the site looking at case studies this time. The client then follows up with a second email, which is read but still not actioned. They then send a third email a few days later, presumably at the same time the prospect has had time to think and discuss with other stakeholders, because they reply, confirming they want to book a meeting to discuss further. So as you can see, 3 different channels of prospecting: email, intent tracking, and LinkedIn over a 13-day period, resulting in a meeting. So email may not be landing as well on its own now, but multi-channel communication clearly does. And here's a second example I wanted to share. Again, on the right-hand side of the screen, on the slide, the industry this time of the client is IT service and consulting. Location, London. Company size, 200 to 500, with a current lead rate of just below 2%, and they've been a client of ours since June 2021. On the left-hand side, the prospect detail, job title is product manager, industry, internet, location, London, and company size, 1,000 to 5,000 employees. This case study starts with a letter being sent to the prospect. A week later, the first email goes out, which is opened the same day.
Hey, hi, my friend. This is
And that first email is engaged straight away, leading to a website visit to the homepage and pricing page. As this is a high intent prospect, the client sends a follow-up email and includes a gift. In this case, a lunch voucher. And the gift is redeemed on the same day. The prospect then replied, "Thanks for lunch. I'm free Thursday at 4 if that works for you." So this time, as you can see, 4 different channels of prospecting: letter, email, intent tracking, and gifting over a 14-day period, creating a standout multi-channel campaign that delivered a meeting booked. Oh, and the prospect, they went on and signed an agreement with our client too. As we've seen, email is still rated the most reliable channel for driving leads. So how can you make sure that emails do land in 2024? So let's review today's webinar. Well, to land in the inbox, first of all, your technical setup needs to be better than ever, making sure more of your messages get seen. Google's new sending rules target mass senders and low quality. So make sure you adhere to the new guidelines. And to land with your potential customers, great data, targeting, and segmentation are essential to reach the right people and make your message relevant. Advanced personalization, not just name and company. Make messages sound personal and human. And the right content can elevate your outreach, making prospects excited to talk more about a collaboration with you and your company. But with increased competition, it's still difficult to be memorable and stand out from that crowded inbox. To really elevate your outreach, it's time to embrace the power of multi-channel prospecting. With an intent-based campaign, synchronized across multiple platforms, you'll be able to target the right people, send relevant and personalized messages, meet prospects where they are, making your brand more memorable. So when they're ready to buy, your business is front of mind. And adding buyer intent signals, make sure you are right at the front of the queue before anybody else. So that wraps up my part and Hannah's part of the webinar today. I really hope you've taken away some tips and ideas of best practice to help optimize your own results this year. These findings really have helped our own outreach here at SoPro and our clients too. So much so, 2024 is shaping up to be a great year. But before I hand back to Rich for a brief Q&A, I would like to first thank Hannah, my co-host. Thank you. And second, if anyone is thinking they like what they've seen today and how could SoPro or does SoPro provide this service to its clients, then let's talk if you want to know more. My details are up on the screen now, or you can go to our website to get in contact. So back to you, Rich.
Shane, Hannah, that was awesome. Thank you both so much. Really, really enjoyed that. I like the advice about the layered approach to outbound and the importance of the right person, message, place, and time, and getting all of those things right for the email to be absolutely optimal. Really interesting stuff. An amazing response in the chat as well to the question that I posed at the start about whether people are feeling an increase in cold email. A few quotes here. A barrage, 5 times more than last year, and variations on that theme. So yeah, great to hear about how that multi-channel approach can help you stand out from all that noise. Had a couple of questions asking if the recording of this session will be available. Yes, of course. We'll be emailing a link. We'll be emailing a link around to everybody who signed up, and we'll be hosting it on our website at sopro.io. If you navigate down to the resource hub, you'll find not just today's webinar, but a whole back catalogue of goodies, as well as our state of prospecting report, which is where a lot of this data has come from. So on to the questions. We've had quite a few. If anything crops up, please drop them into the chat now. We'll try and get to them if we can. We do have a limited amount of time available. If you want to put your email address as well, then we can pick up with you directly if we can't get it to our speakers today. So the first question is from Jesse, and it's for Hannah. What should I do once I've seen someone visit my website? What actions should I take? Hannah, what advice would you have for Jesse?
Great, thank you. So yeah, first of all, strike while the iron is hot is the key thing here. Someone has expressed that intent, so we want to make contact with them as quickly as possible through whatever channels you have available to you. So whether that's reaching out through LinkedIn or warm calling, as Shane discussed earlier. If you are a SoPro client, we have several automation options that we can put in place. So we can use web intent to trigger things like gifting links being sent, or again, a LinkedIn messaging connection, and that can all be done automated and in real time for you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that answer, Hannah. Now, Carmen has asked, and I think this one is potentially for you, Shane, if you don't mind answering this one. You mentioned the rise in decision makers involved in the sales process. Any insights as to why this has grown and how to ensure you reach the right person?
Yeah, good question. It was a tough year, 2023, for a lot of businesses. A lot of companies were were known to be looking to consolidate tech stacks. They were looking at spend. And as part of that, understandably, more decision makers on any spend were brought to the table. More people were included in that decision-making process. And fundamentally, that's what it was, you know, keeping an eye on the spend and what they do buy and what they invest in. So we definitely have ourselves, as I mentioned in the webinar today, seen a real big uplift. Yeah, it's important to remember, you know, from today, don't just think the key part of that is post demo and post proposal going out, and that's when you need to kind of tackle and be open and understand who the decision makers are that are sitting around the table. Key, as we mentioned today, is you can really start to have an impact subliminally early on when you're looking at your targeting and the job titles that you're targeting. So yeah, we've seen a real difference by doing that ourselves.
Brilliant. Thanks, Shane. Carmen, I hope that answered your question for you. Hannah, another one for you from Georgia. She has asked, you said it's worth replying to emails that say no. Can you expand on why that is important?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that we've talked about a lot today and that we at SoPro talk about all the time is about making our emails sound really human, really natural, really personalized. And the fact of the matter is, if somebody has taken the time to respond to say no to an email, they probably think it's come from a real human being sending a one-to-one message. We don't reply to emails that we can tell are just mass mail outs to thousands of people. So the first thing is that, you know, it's a good thing in a lot of ways that you've ticked that box and you've done a good job with your content. So yeah, that's why it's really important to keep that conversation going. There might be any number of reasons why they've given you that no thank you. So trying to dig into a bit more information about what's driven that response can be really useful. So are they already in contract with another supplier? And there might be a better time for you to get in touch when that's coming up for renewal. It might be a common objection that you know you can handle really well. So definitely worth continuing that conversation.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hannah. Georgia, I hope you're happy with that answer. I'm going to try and get through as many of these questions as we can. We've had quite a few. Sarah has messaged to ask, I'd like to know how to detect demand and narrow down the prospecting process in order to target the right person at the right time. Hannah, you must get this from clients all the time. Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, definitely. So typically when a SoPro client comes on board or throughout the process at the life cycle of any campaign, we'll be constantly talking to you about your target audience, your priorities, maybe audiences you've had success with in the past. We can also give you a load of insight from other similar campaigns. We've run hundreds of campaigns. There aren't very many things we haven't seen anymore. And then in terms of the timing part of that, we can then combine that with those web intent triggers and the IP match and engage piece. So when we get a trigger that somebody has visited your website, we can then add them to that prospecting sequence as we talked about earlier. And we can learn from that data as well. So if we can see that we're not targeting, I don't know, the pharmaceutical industry, and we're suddenly seeing you're getting loads of web traffic from that industry, then again, that would be another trigger for us to have a conversation with you and suggest including that more broadly in your outreach.
Fab, that's a great answer. Thank you very much. We've had a question from Paul. This is a great question. I like this one. How do you identify intent and visitors to a site if they're visiting from home and using their home ISP instead of their company network? Who'd like to answer that one?
I think Hannah's best.
I'm happy to take that one if you like, Shane. Up to you.
Please do.
Yeah, so it can be a bit of a challenge, to be completely transparent, but what we find actually is that a lot of companies now insist on the use of a VPN if people are working from home. I'm doing it right now, actually. So when we have those VPNs in place, we can still find that data. In other scenarios where they are genuinely working from a home network, if we've prospected to that person and they've clicked through one of the links in our emails, we can still track that behavior and that activity. And then we can capitalize on that by retargeting through that multi-channel approach. So with the social ads that Shane talked about, with contact through LinkedIn, and all those other elements of the service.
Brilliant. I'm jumping around now to various different questions. Shane, perhaps this is one for you. Gavin says, I'm targeting large groups, 20K plus. How do we balance between the resource available to personalize versus maybe the use of AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., to assist with how best to determine where to place that resource? Is that one you can answer?
It's a question I think I'd have to come back on, actually, and it's the AI side of that question that our CTO is probably best to answer that. So yeah, we'll please put your email address into the chat, and we'll definitely come back to you and answer that one.
Brilliant. Yeah, Gavin, drop your email in the chat. We'll get back to you on that one. Jamie Culver's got a question for you, Hannah. How do you define which prospects get a gift? £10 times the number of prospects could become quite expensive.
Yeah, it's a good point. And it's certainly something that we thought about a lot when we were first rolling out gifting as part of the SoPro service. What we found in practice is that the redemption rates are actually very low, and it's that perceived value piece that that actually has the impact. So often just seeing that the option is there means that people respond more favorably, and often, or in the vast majority of cases, they don't actually redeem that gift. From a technical perspective at SoPro, we'd put a monthly budget in place, and we would stop sending out gift links as and when we reach that budget. But in reality, it's not really been necessary, as the redemption rates have been quite low.
Brilliant. That's a great answer there. Thank you very much. Debbie in the chat asked about what you consider spammy and erratic behavior, and how do we get the timelines right? What's the best practice? Debbie, what we're going to do is I'm going to send you to a blog that we've written on that, which can go into much more detail than we've got time for from our speakers. But yeah, there's some really, really good advice in there about what you shouldn't be doing when you send an email, and best practice, everything that you need to get right before you start embarking on something like that. So I'll see if Kit or one of the team can drop you a link. If not, drop your email in the chat, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Let's have a quick look. Sorry, there's loads coming in. Okay, yeah, well, here's a good question, and I'm sure this is something that applies to a lot of people. Sharon Fox has asked, she's a bit confused over GDPR regulations. Are these people you target already agreed to receiving emails, or are you using legitimate interest? Shane, is that one for you?
It's probably one for both of us, but basically it's based on legitimate interest. So it's a business reaching out to another business with a product or service that they believe could benefit that company, and that is the basis of the outreach. Hannah, do you want to add some value to that?
No, I think that's exactly right, Shane. Yeah, and the targeting makes that, the nature of that legitimate interest, even stronger, because we're not just sending to anyone and everyone. We're targeting specific people that we believe will have an interest in the service. So yeah, it is worth checking out. You know, there are specifics with different countries that you're prospecting to. So as we mentioned earlier, worth looking at, yeah, if there's anything different if you're prospecting somewhere else.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Right, we want to keep today really short and concise, so I'm just going to draw everything to a close. Huge thank you to our speakers, Hannah and Shane, and of course, everyone who's attended. Thank you so much for the questions. They've been absolutely brilliant. If anything today has sparked your interest and you'd like to find out a little bit more, please do drop us a line and we can pick up on that conversation. You can find Shane and Hannah on LinkedIn. Drop us an email. As mentioned, the webinar will be emailed to you along with the resources Hannah and Shane have mentioned today, so keep an eye on your inboxes. Alternatively, if we didn't get to your question, please feel free to drop me an email at richard@sopro.io and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much for attending.